Welcome back to the Work Mija podcast, a place for mujeres motivated to cultivate the life they deserve. I am your host, Xochitl Carmona, founder of Work Mija, an apparel and accessories brand for Latinas who unapologetically celebrate their culture through empowering and relatable messages. Thank you for joining me and enjoy these inspiring conversations. Hello and welcome. Today I'm joined by Jennyfer Delgado. Jennyfer is the founder of Artesanias La Luna, an artisanal boutique on a mission to share our stories. Growing up, Jennyfer struggled connecting with her roots. As a former DACA recipient, she wanted to encourage her community que sí se puede. Artesanias La Luna was created to keep our culture alive through Mexican art. Jennyfer wants to inspire people in her community while creating safe spaces to grow. I am so excited to have Jennyfer on the podcast today, especially because we originally met at a pop-up, and now she is my neighbor at the Berwyn shop. So welcome, Jennyfer.
Hello, hi. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm super excited to be here and chat today a little bit more about everything that's been going on.
Yes, and Jennyfer is usually a very chatty one, and so am I. So we'll see how long this episode runs. But to kick it off, as we like to do here on the Work Mija podcast, we like to, do a little icebreaker with your astrological placements, and Jennyfer already knew hers. So I wanted to share what we call our sun, our moon, and our rising. So for her sun sign, which is your identity and where you shine, Jennyfer is an Aries sun, very fiery, passionate, motivated, maybe sometimes impulsive, maybe a little dramática. We call it passion, though. And then her moon sign, which rules your body and your emotions. She is a Libra moon, which is funny because this is kind of like what do they call sister signs, the opposite of the Aries. So our Libras are known for their peacefulness, their natural charisma. They value justice and keeping the peace above all else. And definitely when I talk to Jennyfer, I've met her, she definitely gives me level-headed vibes. So that's a nice balance with that Aries sun. And finally, her rising sign, which can be your motivation for life. She is an Aquarius rising. This is such a crazy little mix-up here. We have fire, air, that Aquarius. Our Aquarius, they're very much individuals. They're not going to be the followers. They're not concerned with following the pack. They're very much humanitarians, intellectuals versus the emotional mindedness. So I thought that was an interesting makeup. What do you feel? Like you feel these things about yourself, Jennyfer?
Yes, so it's so funny because before I started to get into astrology, I was going by like my sun sign, which is Aries, so I definitely am a little too passionate sometimes. But then I've also had those moments where it's like I really try to balance everything and be fair. So when I started getting into astrology and reading into like my moon signs, my rising signs, I was like, oh, okay, well, this makes sense. Like I see
Yeah.
why I could go from like, hi, yes, to like very like just fair. Growing up, I thought I was gonna be a lawyer just because of like the way my personality has always been. Like I've really been very passionate, but I've also loved to be very fair. So I guess that would explain the Aries, the Libra, and then the
The
Aquarius.
Libra, yeah. Yeah, Libra, I feel like a lot of Libra patients are very much in that justice type of roles, politicians, stuff like that. That's crazy. I mean, you're quite the diplomat in person, so I'll give you that. Oh my gosh. Well, now that we got to know a little bit about Jennyfer astrologically, let's see where these placements come up in your life, career, what you've been up to. But Jennyfer, can you tell us more about who you are, where you're from, and what the path to entrepreneurship looked like? Like, what were you doing right before maybe you started Artesanias La Luna?
All right. Yeah, so again, my name is Jennyfer. I was born in Mexico. I'm from Tasco Guerrero, and I came to the United States when I was 5 years old. So I was raised here my whole life. I've lived in Chicago, ever since I can remember. I grew up in the Logan Square neighborhood and then kind of just moved next door, which is in the Hermosa neighborhood. So I've been in the same area my whole life. And then for my entrepreneur journey. I guess I've always have like that entrepreneur mindset. I just didn't really start tapping into it until a couple of years ago. I think it was a little bit right before the pandemic. So I was able to go to Mexico for the first time in 2020. And when I went to Mexico, because of how uncertain my future looked, I quit my job.
Oh wow.
So yeah, because I wasn't sure if I was gonna come back. I wasn't sure what was gonna happen, with like my residency card and all of that. So I quit my job, and then when I came back, I was basically jobless.
Oh my god.
And I had to kind of just decide what I wanted to do. And I've always been very hardworking. I started working at a very young age just because I knew that my chances here weren't as everybody else's just because I was an immigrant, like growing up, I didn't have that opportunity, to sign up for like financial aid, all these
Mm.
other programs. So I had to really kind of just figure it out. So I depended a lot on my community. So I got all of like my certifications through community programs like Instituto del Progreso Latino. After I graduated from high school, I actually got my CNA through them. I've always loved helping people, and I was really into nursing during that time. So I was going to school to be a nurse, and then kind of just life happened. It was really hard to balance, going to school for nursing, working a full time job, and then, being at home. I ended up finding out I was pregnant. So, when you have all of those things going on,
Yeah.
you really have to like, figure out your priorities, especially because I paid everything out of pocket. So that's when I started getting more into like, like 9 to 5 jobs, corporate America, just because they were paying better than like, the nursing home where I was working at as a CNA. So once I started doing that, I started, meeting more people, getting more certifications. I got licensed through property and casualty with State Farm. So I have a really long resume just because, I feel like sometimes we don't realize that that's the way that you're going to move up in life. Sometimes I know like I've had friends that have gone to college and, they spent all their years in college and were doing like internships and things like that. And, while they were doing that, I was building my resume. So when I got to a point where I was like, hey, like I have a pretty good resume, like I've literally worked in different fields. Like I think I could do this on my own. So I basically incorporated everything that I've learned through like my past life experiences, my jobs, everything that I've learned together, and like, like let's build a business. So that's where the idea of like, let's start a business, let's see what we do, kind of started. And when I went to Mexico, it was a huge cultural shock. Like the ni de aquí ni de allá really hit me because
Mm.
like I was born over there, but I didn't sound like I was from over there. I didn't
Mm.
look or acted like I was from over there. And then I was here, but I knew I was Mexican, and like I didn't belong here. Like
Mm.
my nationality is Mexicana. Like my pasaporte is like from Mexico. So
Mm.
it was just very very shocking, I guess, to go through that experience. And then seeing how busy it was during, well, like right before the pandemic, and then how like everybody wasn't able to work after the pandemic just because a lot of these artisans relied a lot on tourism, people that were buying their stuff because in Mexico, sometimes people don't have that extra cash to buy artesanias. Like they have to worry about what they're going to eat, what they're going to buy for like,
Mm.
their house and things like that. So, when I was out there and speaking to the artesanos, speaking to like people from the pueblos, many of them don't really buy artesanias. It's the tourists that buy the
Mhm.
artesanias just because, they want the recuerditos, they want the gifts and all of that stuff. So when I was coming up with my business plan, I'm like, you know what? I think I could do something where I get to help two different people in two different places. So that's why I decided to go with artesanía. So when I started going to Mexico, I was looking for specific people to work with. So a lot of family owned businesses, women owned businesses, not just like sourcing from the mercados or like rebuying stuff that was being sold. So I wanted to be extremely intentional with everything that I was doing. So that's where the concept of Artesanias La Luna came into place. And then I was also doing community work at that time for a nonprofit organization. So it really kind of just like worked very well together. And now that we're at the Berwyn shops, we started doing events just because for next year, I really want to start incorporating doing more workshops, community events, and things like that to, bring us together because we are stronger together. And I feel like many times, especially in our communities, we don't work together just because we can see each other as competition. But something that I've learned is that there's no competition. Like the only competition that you have is with yourself. And we all have different skills. And when we put them together, it's like magic because there's things I know that, you might not know. And there's things that you know that I might not know. And it's like when we are able to combine all of our skill sets, like we are so much stronger. So that's why, I started to do all of the things that I started to do. I'm also a mom, so I really want to inspire my daughter to just be the best version of herself. Growing up, I definitely struggled with my identity just because I was an immigrant. I didn't know what was going on, as a kid. You like, yeah, you live here, and you're like, yeah, I want to say I'm from Chicago, but like, you're not really from Chicago. Like, you're from Mexico, so you can't say that. So it was really hard growing up. But now after everything that I've been through, I want to say that's the reason why I feel so empowered now to be able to do the things that I do because it's like I come, from a minority household. My mom was a single mom. I'm an immigrant, so it's like I had all of the odds against me, but I still, I pushed through. I did it, and now we're here, and we really want to inspire people, especially that been in my position to be like, hey, si se puede, like we got this, we could do this, we just gotta work together and figure it out because anything's possible when you're passionate and when you really want to do things with the right intention.
Oh my gosh, yeah, passion, Aries passion, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my, and yeah, like I mean, that's really great, to figure out what it is you really wanted to do, and like you said, help two different spots, right? And so for you, when you decided to start sourcing your products, like, how did you even know like which products you wanted to start off with? I mean, like, is probably I'm not sure how like the whole sourcing or where you go like depending on Mexico, but there's probably an array of different beautiful products. Like even for me as I've gone like just to visit, I was like, where do I even start? What do I want? What do I need? But for you as a business, you're like, what am I going to start off with? What is a thing that maybe my audience that I'm trying to curate going to want? What are we going to be known for? Like how did you even what did you start off with?
Yeah, so I started with silver jewelry. So because I'm from
Okay.
Tasco Guerrero, Tasco is very well known for its silver. The moment I stepped foot in Tasco, like I just felt like I belonged there. Like it was just like this feeling I can't even explain. I fell in love with everything from the houses to the Zócalo to the barrios to the streets, everything. So when I was out there, I was really inspired by the way the Pueblo Mágico is, from like the streets to the silver to everything. So when I started sourcing, I really wanted to combine all of that into products that like are like, oh my God, like this is so pretty, or like I haven't seen this before, or like if you've seen it, you haven't seen it in silver, just because silver sometimes isn't as popular as gold. Everywhere where you go, you see,
Mm.
the stuff that's like bañada in plata and oro, or like,
Nice.
stuff like that. So with silver, I've always been kind of like a silver. Well, actually, I wear both, right? I wear gold and silver, but I've always loved silver too, just because I'm from Tasco, and Tasco's such uh what's it called, a place for silver. So I really wanted to start with that, just because it's where I'm from. I wanted to connect a little bit more. So when I went over there, I started looking for plateria. So a lot of these people own small platerias, or they sell their stuff in like the tianguis. So when I was out there, I was trying to meet new people, see where they were getting their stuff from, if they would do it, if somebody else would do it. My dad was in Tasco, so he was a taxi driver, so he did all of the tourism stuff in Tasco. So he had
Oh.
a lot of connections out there, so I got to meet a couple of different people that own platerias. And I mean, he grew up there his whole life, so everybody knew him. When you're from the pueblo, everybody knows you. So he was able
Mm.
to kind of help me, get those connections going. And then little by little, I started obviously going on my own, and just doing all of this by myself. So that's when I started meeting the people, and now I've been able to build relationship with certain artesanos out there that ships the stuff. And then when I go out there,
Mm.
I try to buy stuff from like different joyerias just to see like the quality of their products, see how they are, how they feel, and if I feel like we've made a good connection, then I'll bring them on as one of my vendors.
Nice, nice. Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, even starting off too, like, do you feel like from when you started to maybe like now as you're growing, like, what did your first couple of orders look like? Do you feel like your like quantities have grown? Because like
Yes.
budget is definitely a thing, right?
Yeah, so I started off my business, I want to say with like 300 to $500. Like I remember the first time I went to Mexico, I was like, all right, we're gonna test it out, we're gonna do this, see with like our families, our friends, a ver cómo nos funciona kind of deal. So the first time I went, I specifically just focused on bringing silver jewelry, and then I also brought like two different pairs of huaraches because I've always
Mm.
loved huaraches. So I was like, okay, let's see how it goes. And then I think I brought like a couple other stuff, like little bags and stuff. So just to kind of test out what was the thing that was gonna sell the most with like my market. And the silver jewelry did freaking great. So right off the start, it was something that was very popular. And slowly but surely, we started to add more into our inventory. But because we offer different stuff, I do everything per collection. So I try to only bring a
Mm.
certain amount of pieces and then, add a collection like, like the Tasco collection or like a Protégete collection of just like little evil eyes. And then now that I'm at the Berwyn shops, I offer from silver jewelry to the huaraches, to hats and other little accessories and things like that. So I've definitely grown a lot, especially from the moment that I stepped foot into the Burnway shops. I was able to reach a much broader audience that,
Mm.
people could really, enjoy my products. So when I was online, I was kind of targeting more of like the 20 to 40 years old, like Latinas, Latinos,
Mhm.
and eventually, when I started doing markets, I noticed that, people all, from all races, all ethnicities, all ages were buying my products. And then I realized, like, hey, like for people that are Mexican, it's a way for them to connect to the roots since we source from different regions of Mexico. And for people who are Mexican, it's a great way for them to understand like the beauty, the craftsmanship of the things that, I offer. Cause I have like these little beaded bracelets and
Mhm.
I've tried to do them because I do some of like the wire jewelry and beaded stuff. And I kid you not, it took me about 2 hours to make a
Wow.
bracelet. And when I was in Mexico, I was seeing the abuelita that does Doña Carmen. Well, she's the abuelita over
Ah.
there. Her
Shout
name's
out
Doña
Doña
Carmen.
Carmen.
Yeah, she literally did one in like 30 minutes, and I was like, it's because
Wow.
she's been doing this for such a long time that it's like it's something that just comes natural to to her, and like compared to me, like it was my first time, and it took me like 2 hours. So it's like people should get paid for this stuff because this is stuff that they perfected over the years and it's their work. So that's why, when I bring these stuff to my shop, I really want to focus on working with like specific people or,
Mhm.
just making sure that everybody's getting paid fairly out there because many times, because they're just trying to sell, they lower their prices and it's like, no, don't lower your
Yeah.
prices. Like, like this is gold. Like this is so amazing because like they're just trying to make their day, sell some of their stuff. And it's like, no, like we want to make sure everybody gets paid fairly. That's why I try to like, buy in small batches, a couple of different products and, ya hicieron lo de su día at least that day and, they'll be good. And then, with like my huaraches is definitely something that's really expanded this year. I started with the huaraches last year. I was able to find a vendor after like a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
So when I started with the huaraches, I think I started with like three different styles. And it was sizes from like 5 to 9. And now we are at like 12. I think our next shipments total of like 15 different styles. And now we're offering more variety of sizes. So now we're going all the way up to a size 10. We're offering some men huaraches and we've added kids. So being at the Berwyn shops really helped me expand different collections, different items, and really, like I said, meet people that are all ages and that like our products. Like I know I've gotten little kids buying like our hats or like our shoes. Like I had this little kid this weekend that he's like, I really like these shoes and they're my size. So he tried them on. He really wanted them. But you know, kids can't make those decisions. So the mom was like, okay, let's shop around. He came back. He's like, I really want these. He's like, can you hold on to these? Like, I will be back for these. And it's just so cute seeing how even like little kids get excited for like our stuff.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I want to see some upcoming videos of Doña Carmen on your social media on your next sourcing trip. No, that would
Yes.
be great to learn more about her story, maybe see her in action. I love it. I love it. You're making connections like, these are real people, not only you from the business who people are buying from, but the artesanias. So, I mean, this these products are supporting multiple people within our community. So I love it. I love it so much. I love what you've been doing and seeing you grow. And running a business definitely has a lot of different touch points, a lot of different things you need to handle. And it's exciting, but it's also very, very hard. So, and I'm sure there's been a bunch of challenges, but if there's one that you can share, like what's one of the challenges maybe you faced during your business, and then how did you kind of overcome it? Like that was maybe a significant one for you.
Yeah, I think it's just trying to balance it out. Like literally everything. Like it's so hard, especially as a mom, you know, it's something that I don't talk about enough. Like, hey, like I'm also a mom entrepreneur. Um,
Yeah.
just because I feel like, you know, like I just watched the Barbie movie and like it talked like the part of like American Ferrera where she was like, oh, like we're women, like we're expected to do this, we're expected to do that. Like if we don't work, like it's bad. If we work, it's bad, you know? So it's like
Mhm.
when I became a mom, I feel like I lost myself a little bit. You know, like I was
Mm.
in the process of like figuring out who I was, but then I kind of like lost track in time, like trying to just focus on the baby. So when I started my business, just trying to balance it out was really hard because it's like I just wanted to keep working and growing on it and like keep doing all these things, but I also had to kind of slow down because it's like if I get so focused into something, like I would literally take up my whole day and like I wanted to, more than anything to be a present parent. And you know, when I go to Mexico, I can't take my kids just because it's so hard to like, you know, be sourcing, be doing that. So it's
Yeah.
like trying to
Business.
yeah, and then I've, you know, growing up, I've done everything by myself. Like, you know, as a first generation daughter, like I was the one who was figuring out everything for everybody else. I was the one who was reading the paperwork. You know, I was the one like, hey, ¿cómo se hace esto? And it was really hard for me to, you know, like rely on other people or like, you know, just like pivot or like, hey, can you help me out? But when I entered into the Berwyn shops, I really had to step out of my comfort zone and be like, hey, I need help. Like, I'm at a point where like I can't do this anymore. And luckily, I was able to rely like on my family. My husband, he's always been such a great support system for me. Like every single time I've decided to change career paths, like he's always been there. So like, yeah, you got this. My mom, you know, she's the one that helps me out with the kids. And now I have my brother or like my sister-in-law kind of helping me out sometimes at the store, and one of my really good friends, she's the one that's always like helping me with like whenever she sees me really busy, she'll be like shooting content and stuff like that. So it's like learning to ask for help was one of those things that was really hard for me because it's like I can't do everything by myself. And as a small business, you know, like at the beginning, like you're fine, you know, like you'll be able to handle it all by yourself. But once you really start growing, it's like, okay, like I gotta find people that are like in the same mentality as me or like looking to do the same things just because it's like a lot of people won't understand the hard work that we're putting into our business because they've never done it or they've never seen it. And I know, like, for me, trying to explain this to my mom was really hard because I know she would see me sometimes, like, on my phone. And it's like, I'm not just sitting here, like, chilling on my phone. Like, I'm working on content. I'm talking back to people. Like, I'm replying to people. And, like, learning how to really balance it all was really hard. Luckily, I'm at a point now where, like, I feel like, you know, I've been able to kind of have a flow going. I started going to Mexico a little bit more often. So this last trip that I went to, I actually stopped. I got stopped by customs, and they had to check me. So that was very like like okay, like it was
Yeah.
like one of those moments where you're like, oh crap, like what's gonna happen? But it was also like, damn, I'm getting stopped by customs because I've been going a lot. Yeah, no, I didn't have huaraches because the huaraches I get from Saguayo, Michoacan, and every time I go out there, I usually get to like Mexico City and just go to like the pueblos around it. And Michoacan is like 8 hours away, I think, from like Mexico City. So I'm like, I don't really go to Michoacan.
Yeah.
But the vendor that I have there, that I actually met on social media.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it was really scary. That was the only vendor that I have not met in person, but she is one of the vendors that I have the most communication with. Like
Oh,
it is
nice.
so funny just because it's like, technology, like where it's brought us to, like how we're able to meet people across the world and like
Nice.
work with them. So like my huarache vendor, like I said, it took me about a year and a half. And once I found her, I have not let her go. She like
Yeah.
understands me to like the dot. Like I know right now we're working on the Sagrado Corazon collection. And I asked her, I'm like, hey, do you have any Sagrado Corazon huaraches? And she's like, no, I do not. And then she like sends me a picture. She's like, algo así. And I was like, it had like a big old cross and like it was like, no, I don't think I want that. Like I just want one of the cute little Sagrado Corazons. But like,
Mhm.
yeah, so I sent her a picture and she kind of like added it onto like the huarache style that she thought it would look cute. And she like sent it to me. She's like, hey, I just want to make sure this is what you want. And I was like, yes, like it is exactly what I was looking for. Like she even like picked out like the huarache to make sure like it looked really nice with the design. So like just being able to work with her has been amazing. And she has great communication with me. And it's such a fun story to tell, about how like it took me a year and a half to find someone and I ended up finding her on social media and we built this relationship online. And it was very different than some of my other vendors, but now I'm able to say like,
Mhm.
hey, I have someone in Saguayo, Michoacan, and I'm hoping to eventually, add more people on just because it's like, it's such an amazing way to grow together and help each other out.
Mhm.
They're helping me out here, with me being able to provide these things and I'm helping out, over there because I'm able to buy in, mayoreo and like, bigger batches and things like that. In our business, we really wanted to implement like a slow fashion concept. So that's why we get, different collections, but in small batches, so we could, offer the products that we need without over consuming or over consumption.
Mhm. Nice. No, yeah, and then I feel like what you say, like your excitement for like finding a vendor, someone, a partner you're gonna be working with for like your products is so important. And maybe like we're just similar because sometimes when like sourcing these things, like for me, for like screen printing, like yes, it is maybe just a screen printer, but I feel like the whole interaction from beginning to maybe potential onboarding, because some people are just very transactional, it's like
Yeah.
XYZ, or they can be very rude about like, oh, you don't know, MOQs, or you don't know about this and that and that. So when you find someone who you can connect with, who is very helpful, who you can build a relationship with, I think also just makes a huge difference in how you can both kind of grow together. Because I mean, you've probably, met some vendors where you're like, this isn't the vibe, or people are like, it's business. No, but like you really do have to have like a good
Yeah.
rapport, like.
No, and I agree because, like I said, I'm extremely intentional with the stuff I do. Like everything that I do, I've put an intention behind it. I make sure that it was found with like love, like it was really good. So when I go out there, I've gotten my fair share of very rude vendors, and I've
Yeah.
gotten my share of like really good vendors that they're just amazing. They tell me like I remember when I was actually in Mexico last time. I was looking for some plain hats for our workshop. And, the person that I get them, they're all hand painted. And most of the time they don't have, big quantities of just plain hats. So when I was out there, I was really trying to shoot some like content and stuff. And I saw this lady, right? She was painting a hat on the side of the street. She looked like a lot of people weren't buying from her. Like it was just her, like just, sitting there. But I was like, it looks so cute how she was just working. So I was like, hey, like, let me ask her if she lets me, record her. I don't have to record her face. Like, I could just do like the
Yeah.
process. And, like, I'll buy some hats from her. I'll buy maybe all of my hats from her this time. Like, I'll switch a vendor just because, she let me record her or something. And she was so rude. She was like, no. And I was like, but I don't have to get your. She's like, no, no, gracias. And I was like, le voy a comprar los sombreros también. She's like, nope, nope. And I was like, I guess. And like, fine, like, I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I ended up, going back to my guy. And I was like, hey, you have the hats. And he was like, yeah, but it's like, I would have bought a big quantity of hats from her if she would have been like, yeah, like, you could record my hands, just don't get my face, just because of
Yeah.
privacy issues.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had, been there all day recording other people. Like, there was a person that did like the flowers on some of the hats. He let me record. He's like, oh, like, I've had like a group of 40 people recording me, and that was nerve breaking. So she's like, I'm fine with you. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I know like there was this other interaction where like I was looking for some like Mercado bags, and I was getting them from this lady, right? And her grandson was there, and he was trying to sell me some of his bags, but he was very pushy, like very like, here, 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 here. And when I told him like I didn't like them just because of like the styles, the colors he had, he got really upset, and he just started talking shit in like another language. Because a lot of them are indigenous people, so it's like,
Now what maybe or something?
yeah, so it's un poco diferente. And I was just like, I think he just like cursed me out, and I didn't even understand it. I was like, but then, I mean, I bought the stuff from his grandma. So it's like, why would you get mad? Like, I'm buying the stuff
Yeah.
from your grandma. Your grandma's like 90 years old. Like, this is going to her. But yeah, those are just some of like the experiences I've gotten. Cause like I said,
Fun.
people sometimes when you're from over here, they'll just look at you like, oh, like, hay que aprovecharnos, or like, let's up our prices. And, they'll try to
Mm.
take advantage. So, when I'm out there, I usually don't go sourcing until like the next day or like 2 days later, just because it takes me a minute for like my Mexican Spanish to kick in. So yeah, once, I'm out there, I talk about it a little bit more. Yeah, the next day I feel very comfortable to like talk to people. I finally feel like I kind of blend in after so many times. I mean, I still obviously stand out, or they're like, where's this girl from? But
Yeah.
yeah, my Spanish has gotten a lot better. When I'm out there, most of the time I go by myself. Sometimes I'll have my husband go with me. But from day one, the person who has helped me with my business has been one of my tias that, again, I've never met her in my life. Like, we
Oh
just
wow.
met for the first time when I went to Mexico for that first time. And when I met her, it was like she was like my soul sister. Like, I connected with her so much. She was like that one tia that was loud. She was crazy. She was like, let's do it. She was on spontaneous. She's a Taurus, so I love Tauruses. So we just like clicked, and I feel like if it wouldn't have been because of my aunt, I wouldn't been able to progress so much, because it's so hard to find, these places in Mexico, all the pueblos, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of traveling. And, most of the time it's just me, like it's just me going out there. So she's the one that's always like, hey, yeah, like, yo te acompaño. She's my dama de compañía. So, she's the one that like, hey, this looks good, this doesn't. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
just someone as a backup. And now I've been able to kind of just bring her on board too, because I can't go to Mexico, every month. So she's the one that's been helping me, go pick up
That's
some
awesome.
stuff, go get some things and get them shipped to me. And it's somebody I trust. So that's I think one of the biggest things that's like brought me joy this year, is being able to like bring on my aunt as, one of my employees, even if it's in Mexico. And then, all the other vendors that I've added, and, we're hoping to eventually be able to hire someone in the store to kind of just, take over like sales wise, taking payments and things like that. And for me to be able to work on more events and things like that, just because it is very, like I said, time consuming, overwhelming. So it's like trying to find the balance in all of that was definitely one of the things that was really hard for me, just because, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. So it's been a lot.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like having a Taurus, especially as a partner, they can negotiate. So that's a good
Oh,
one.
yeah.
That's a really good one. We
Yeah.
hire based off zodiac signs. No, I
Yes.
love it. And I mean, Aries sales, here we go. So that's like definitely a really great combo. But So we keep mentioning this Berwin shops. And so for people who are not aware of the Berwin shops, I just kind of wanted to share a little bit. So like I mentioned, Jennifer and I, we met, starting off with like maybe like websites and then pop-ups, here in the Chicagoland area. But then we are now both a part of what we call the Berwin shops, which is we have our own physical storefront. So for those who don't know, Berwin Shops is an incubator program to help local makers, entrepreneurs, artisans take advantage of those big city opportunities in Berwyn, which is a suburb here in the Chicago area. And so the Berwyn Shops is comprised of 12 by 15 cottage style, or we like to call she sheds, shops. So you can have the experience of your own mini storefront for a 7 month term. And this year, we were open, our grand opening was May 5th. We're going to be open till December 2023, so the 24th, Christmas Eve. And after the 7 months, the hope is that you graduate, to your own traditional commercial space. So I'm so happy to see that Jennifer was one of the 12 businesses selected to the Berwyn Shops this year. Like, it's definitely a process to even be selected. You have to submit an application, your business plan, and then from that pool, they do 20 businesses are sent into like the final round where we have our 5 minute Shark Tank style pitch about your business and why you should be selected as one of the final 12 to have your own storefront. So, Jennifer, tell me, what was this like whole next new step and a big part of your business? What was the experience like for you from maybe thinking about applying business plan, pitch, making it? Like, I know you had all the feelings.
Yes. So it's such a funny story too, because I actually never considered applying to the Berwyn shops. And the only reason why I applied to the Berwyn shops was because I saw one of their posts that said like, what would you do with like $10,000? And this was, I think, like a week before we had to submit our application. So I was like, oh, what would I do with like $10,000? Like I could do a lot. Like I could really expand my business. And prior to, I guess, applying to the Berwyn shops, I was at a nonprofit organization in the Northwest side. So I was working for an organization here, Belmar Cragen. I was their business resource coordinator. I was brought on after the pandemic to kind of support businesses, with getting back on their feet after, the pandemic, resources, grants, and things like that. And I was supposed to be there for a 6 month period because it was a grant based program. So when my grants finished in December, I was like, all right, cool. Like, what is the next step? Like, do I want to work here full time? Do I want to focus on my business full time? And because I was doing that, one of my coworkers, which I love and I will forever be thankful for Jessica, she was the one that was like really helping me with like my business during those 6 months. So I started off with like the concept of, Artesanias La Luna in 2022. And that's when I started testing products, but I never really took it something like where like I was taking it serious. It was just more like, okay, let's see where it goes. Like it's a fun hobby. But when I got to my job and I was seeing my coworker work with all of these businesses and like tell them about their business plan, I was like, why am I not doing these things for my business? So that's when I'm like, you know what? I think I want to focus on my business full time. So last year in July, that's when I registered my business and I was like, yeah, let's take this serious. So I was like, let's go on all for it. And in July, I registered my business. I got my LLC. I created my business plan. I did basically everything we had to do. And then I went on to an entrepreneur training in Tampa on how to teach entrepreneurship. So it was like this hard core class training in Tampa on like, what entrepreneurship is, how to teach it. And this was because of my job. So it's like, programs that they send us out to like really grow, really be able to work with all of these businesses and things like that. So when this December came, I really wanted to work with them full time, but because they're a nonprofit, they're salaried. So it's like, 40 plus hours. And I have kids, unfortunately, like I
Mm.
cannot do it as much as I wanted to do it. So I was very like, damn, like what is the next step? Like, what are we gonna do next? So then I saw the Berwyn Shops flyer and I was like, is this what's the next step? Like, was this my sign? And I'm the kind of person that I love to follow signs. Like, if I see it, like, I'll like try to take, like advantage of it and be like, okay, this was my sign, this was my opportunity. So I ended up applying to the Berwyn shops that last day. So the last day we had to submit applications, that's when I submitted my application. And I was terrified because, like I said, I was barely in business for like 6 months. Going rogue probably like about a year. So I was a very new business, but I had the idea, I had the vision, I had, my mission, and I had my business plan because of my coworker and stuff that we had worked on it. So when I submitted it and, got the notification that I was going to be one of the final 20 that were selected, I was like, oh crap, like we actually did it. Like we're here now, like, like, okay, let's see where this goes. So then when we had to do that Shark Tank edition, it was terrifying. Mind you, I'm very good at like public speaking, speaking with people, but it was terrifying. The fact that I had to speak in front of like, I don't know, I think it was like 13 to like 15, 20, I don't know, people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just nerve wracking, but it also felt very empowering for the fact that like I've been building up for that moment. Like I said, I had gone for like an entrepreneur training. I had, done that stuff that I did with my job. And it was just like, why am I so scared? Like I know what I'm doing. So that day I was just like super terrified, but also very confident. And I felt really empowered. And I was just, like same thing I was telling you, I was sharing my story and I just get so passionate when it comes to the stuff I do that I guess, the Berwyn shops jury were able to see that. And, we were selected as one of the 12 vendors. And now that we're in the Berwyn shops, we really want to take advantage of this opportunity just because we're not going to get something like this ever again, as a business. And as someone that's worked with organizations like this before, I'm forever thankful for these opportunities because it's people that are putting it together for somebody else. And yeah, like they're obviously, they're getting paid like their salary or whatever, but they're literally trying their best to make it work. And I've seen that firsthand with the organization I used to work for because we would get so passionate, so happy to see all of these entrepreneurs grow and be successful that it's like for us to have a program like this, like I just feel so happy to be part of it because, we're growing, we're learning, and we're getting to test different, markets. I know, for me at least, it's been really successful. I've been able to really grow my business. I also started doing events. Last weekend, I had my first event, which is a sombrero workshop. So we kind of we brought on an artist that I've worked with before, and she taught a class on how to paint your own hat. And that was a lot of fun because I really, I got to do something that I see in Mexico here. And it was just very like fulfilling knowing that it's like I'm sharing these experiences and people are getting to learn these things that I see in Mexico. And then next weekend, we're going to have our first networking event, called Latina Talks, where, it's a bunch of badass Latina women sharing their stories, what they're doing, and, how they got to that moment. And more than anything, I just want to create a space where people can share their stories, just how I've been able to share mine, because we've gone through so many things as, as women, as entrepreneurs, that it's like, it's so important to share that because we never know who we might inspire next. And that's what I want to do. I want to inspire people to believe in themselves, que sí se puede, because if I would have had something like that, from an early age, I feel like I would have been unstoppable. That's why, with my daughter, I tried to, teach her all of these things, explain what I'm doing, very non-traditional mom teaching styles. Like if you see my daughter, she will have a full-on conversation with you. She's a little chismosa. And, like I know some people could find that intimidating, like when it comes to like teachers or like stuff like that. Because even me, myself, like I remember an experience when, at one of my jobs, I had someone tell me like, you just need to learn how to be quiet and listen. But it's like, I am being quiet and I am listening, but what you're saying is not making sense to me. So it's like, how are you going to tell me to be quiet and listen? And, during that time, I was so in shock that somebody told me that I literally just stayed quiet and I did listen, but it still didn't make sense to me. So it's like, if I were ever to get that opportunity again, I would speak up and be like, I'm sorry, but, can you just explain yourself again? Because you're not making sense. It's not that I'm not listening. It's just that you're not making sense. And that's what I mean. Like, I'm at a point in my life where like my confidence is at an all-time high, like, body positive wise, even after having a kid, I obviously didn't go back to the weight I was before having my kid. But even now, like, hey, we're body positive. We love our body. We love ourselves. And, if there's something that we're not happy with, it's something that we could work with, like I know for me, I really try to like the way I eat or, the way I do things, like really be intentional about those things. Same thing, like I said, with like my business, everything that I'm doing, I want to be extremely intentional. And then when it comes to the Berwyn shops, it's just something that I feel like is going to provide an opportunity for next year that I can't even begin like where to explain it. So that's why, I want to be doing these collaborations. I want to be working with other people, to find my people more than anything, to find my people, because it's like we could try to work with a bunch of people, but sometimes it's not going to work out the way we want it to. And it's okay, just because we all have very different mentalities. But of all of those people, we will find that one or two or three, people that are going to be like, hey, like we really link, like we have the same mentality, we have, the same beliefs. And I feel like that's one of the most important things, when it comes to building relationships, which is finding like-minded people that understand you and, will, go along with what you're doing and will support you. Same thing, vice versa. You're going to be able to support them with whatever they're doing. And, that's what I like the most about the Berwyn shops, is just getting this exposure to meeting new people, doing new things without that full on risk, but still, being able to succeed.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, I think that's definitely important. And I love that we can curate these spaces, these safe spaces, but specifically for people who do look like us. I feel like, especially us growing up is very limited on, seeing not only just like Latinas to look up to, because before I feel like it was like, oh, Selena, maybe a little bit, Evelyn Goria, maybe J-Lo, but like entrepreneurs too. So I'm excited, for this event as well. So for those of you guys who want to check out the Berwyn shops, come a little bit early to come shop. It's going to be the Latina Talks hosted with Shop GVXO, which is Jen's co-host of the Bien Chillin' podcast. We will put a link down below so you can check out that podcast. And it's going to be a networking event para las comadres. This is going to be Sunday, August 6th from 4:30 to 8:30. So the Berwyn shops are open from 11 to 4. Come shop, come have a Sunday fun day. And then, so Work Mija is going to be there also with our amiga, our other shop neighbor, Evelia from De Mi Tierra, who is also on the Work Mija podcast. So she's episode 43. If after this episode you want to get to learn about her before coming to the event. And I'm so excited to be there, to be part of the conversation, and just to be surrounded with, like you said, other like-minded women, because I feel like especially when you're growing, your business, when you're growing, as yourself, you very much have to surround yourself with those people. You might outgrow some other people who aren't on the same page with you, and that's okay. Grow with those who kind of have the same goals, the same missions, the same values. So I'm excited for those talks. And I will link the Eventbrite on this podcast as well, or you can go to Jen's link in bio. We'll have it on the Work Mija Instagram. But we can't wait to see you all there. And before we get into our fun lightning round questions, I have one last kind of bigger question for you, Jen. I know you probably have a list. And like you said with the Berwyn shops, like you don't just like that's just the next huge step in your business. But what goals, do you have for Artesanias La Luna coming up that maybe you can share with us?
Yes. So last year when I went to that entrepreneur training in Tampa, it literally changed my life. Like I was there for 5 days and it was like a like 8 in the morning to like 8 p.m. kind of deal. So it was
Wow.
intense. But I was one of the only Latinas that was there, especially a young Latina. I think it was
Mm.
just me and somebody else that we were kind of like the same age and we were both Hispanics, but we were literally in a room full of white people and it was very intimidating because it's like it was somewhere where I felt like I didn't belong, but it was also again very empowering because it's like damn, like I'm here, I'm taking up space, like I'm doing this. And I got to meet so many amazing individuals that when I was coming back on the plane I came up with another business plan and I've been having it for about a year, and I just didn't know how to go about it, or where to start or what to do. So now that I've started implementing events and doing things like that, I'm super excited to start working on us. It's going to be kind of like a similar thing, but very different. So next year, I really want to finish incorporating everything that I've learned. So I want to open up kind of like a event slash gallery space. So I want to obviously, have some of my stuff in there. Obviously, not everything would be on there since I started on as an online business. So I'll have certain things there, and then I'll have certain things, on my online shop for Artesanias La Luna. But I also want to incorporate other businesses, so other women-owned businesses here from like Chicago. Like this month, I collaborated with Mirasol Accessories and GVOXO. She's a sustainable fashion designer. So I would want to, have spaces for like 5 other vendors that are, doing something similar, but also not to a point where it's like overwhelming. So it will still be a boutique style kind of store. But during the weekends, we would host events, like networking events, community events, markets, and things like that. So really just kind of putting everything that we've been doing into one place. I'm still trying to figure out if it would be under Artesanias La Luna, or we would come up with a new name. I do have a couple of them in mind. But that's kind of what we want to do. Last month, actually, no, earlier this month, I got licensed for the sanitation manager license. So now I'm able to sell food or like have food
Ooh.
products. So that was nice. When I was in Mexico, I got to get a lot of recipes of like things that we do here, but that were done different. So for next year, I definitely want to incorporate a little bit more food, just because my husband's a chef. My mom has experience in that. So like, to be able to bring them on, to really expand my team for next year. And like I said, create a safe space for us to be able to have networking events and our stuff and things like that. So vamos a hacer un poquito de todo.
Oh my gosh, that's exciting. Everybody stay tuned. Stay tuned. We shall see. Okay, so before we end this very chatty fun podcast, I wanted to do some quick lightning round
Yes.
questions. You can answer the first thing that comes to mind. And so the first question is, what is your favorite me time activity?
Um, Locking myself in the bathroom and doing any kind of self-care activity that I will not be interrupting for like the next hour and a half.
You started with locking myself in the bathroom. I was like, where is this going? Okay. Nice. Okay, next one. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Don't make yourself small. Don't make yourself small for others. I really had to learn how to channel my inner self and what I do and be proud of everything that I've been doing, that I no longer want to make myself feel small for others.
I love that. I love that. Okay. What is a piece of advice you would give anyone wanting to pursue a business like yours?
Just do it. Just like Nike, just do it. Because sometimes I know, like for me, my perfectionist side really kicks in, and it's like I won't want to do it. I'll double guess myself, and as an entrepreneur, I've learned that stuff happens, and just do it. Just do it, and you'll figure it out. Because if you sit there and think about it way too long, you might miss an opportunity.
Yep, I love that. I wholeheartedly agree. Okay, next question. What is the best resource that has helped you along your business journey? This can be a book, podcast, app, workshop, etc.
My resource is gonna have to go to Jessica, my coworker. She is a business advisor at the Northwest Side Community Development. So she works with businesses in the 60639 area code, and the area code surrounding. And being able to work with someone like that literally changed me. Like, she has such an amazing work ethic, everything that she does, she's very inspiring. And I feel like my business wouldn't be where it's at now if I wouldn't, gotten inspired by her to do all of the, stuff I didn't want to do, which was like the legal stuff and all of that stuff. So having somebody like Jessica to kind of help you, through your journey is amazing. And she does this with all these other businesses. Like it wasn't just mine because, you know, I was there. I was just there kind of just hearing her conversations and like grabbing on some like stuff. And it's like, hey, Jess, what was this or what was that? So I feel like if it wasn't from Jessica, my business wouldn't be where it's at now.
Shout out Jessica. Love it. Love it. And last question, where can listeners connect with you online? Drop all the handles, websites,
Yes.
addresses, etc.
Um, so our social medias for our business are all under Artesanias La Luna. So you guys could follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And for our podcast, we are on Spotify under Bien Chilling Podcast with Jenny and Gani. So we wanted to create a podcast for first generation Latinas, you know, who are going through changes, who want to be the change. And, you know, it's just me and my best friend sit down and just have conversations, random conversations, you know, like the ones that you have with your best friend, where you're just going off topic, getting passionate, you're doing your thing. So that's our podcast that we created at the beginning of the year. And me and her have been best friends since seventh grade. We've known each other since third grade. So we've been knowing each other our whole life. So we really wanted to create something where, you know, people feel like, hey, you know, like I know them, like I know what they're doing, you know, they feel comfortable with us and, you know, they want to put inputs. I feel like we all have very different mindsets and we all had really different experiences. And like I said, when we start sitting down and talking about them, we have more in common than what we think sometimes.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I will link everything down below so you guys can check us out or check. I will link everything down below so you can check out Jennyfer as well as her upcoming event, Latina Talks, hosted at the Berwyn Shops. So we can see you guys in person. But thank you so much, Jennyfer, for joining us on the Work Mija podcast. And for everyone listening, make sure to follow the Work Mija podcast, the Bien Chilling podcast, Artesanias La Luna, and make sure you keep up with more episodes. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Visit workmija.com, that's WERKmija.com, to pick up your new favorite Chingona Fuel cafecito mug or our Bet on Yourself Mija and No Pares Mija apparel for yourself and your comadres chingonas. Don't forget to follow Work Mija on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for fun Latinx-inspired content. Make sure to tune in to the Work Mija podcast and listen to more inspiring mujeres.